All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 306. And today, I need to drink water. All right, so today, first things first. Have you picked up let's try this again. First things first, have you picked up your copy of the Hearth Witch's Guide to Magic and Murder, Book 1 of the Hemlock Saga, written by USA Today bestselling author Kiri? Links are in the description down below. As a reminder, I get nothing out of this. I just like Kiri because she's my friend and she wrote a really cool book. All right, so we have 22 days, 20 hours, 20 minutes, and 3, 2, 1, 0 seconds, and now it's 19 minutes. And anyway, there is now a countdown for Twilight Sword. If you have no idea what that is, you guys may have remembered way back during the best 4 days in gaming, otherwise known as Gen Con, there was an announcement of a new TTRPG that was coming out called Twilight Sword. And Twilight Sword is Breath of the Wild, the RPG, but shh, don't tell anybody. It's not really it's totally Breath of the Wild. You could actually get a free preview during Gen Con that introduced a couple of the aspects of the game, but it was very, very bare bones. I think yesterday or the day before, they launched what they're referring to as a launch party. Basically, it's a countdown to when their backer kit goes live. And the number that I gave you, the 22 days, 20 hours, now it's 18 minutes and 52, 51, 50. That's how long till the backer kit launches. One of the things that you can do if you have a backer kit account, which I strongly recommend you pick up one, because in the world of tabletop RPGs, backer kit and Kickstarter are massive, massive places where you're going to be able to get a lot of TTRPG stuff just in general. A lot of smaller TTRPG companies use both backer kit and Kickstarter to fund their newer books and things like that. Like right now, Monty Cook Games was doing it. It's ended already. Monty Cook Games used it to fund the Cypher System version 2, which is just called Cypher. And by backing through that, you were able to effectively get the entirety of the current Cypher System. Theoretically, I don't know if there's any books that weren't included in that all-in bundle, plus a bunch of stuff for the new Cypher System. Or what just ended, ended through Kickstarter was the Fabula Ultima Kickstarter, where you could get hardcover versions of all the books and digital versions through their new Nexus and the new bestiary, stuff like that. So Kickstarter and backer kit are really, really valuable ways for people that are interested in TTRPGs, not only to get kind of a first look at new stuff coming to the market, but a lot of times the backer versions of these games will give you benefits that you're not going to get if you just pick it up later on once it's in retail. So it's a really valuable thing to do. If anyone is not familiar with backer kit started out as something that Kickstarter creators used for fulfillment. Basically, they would run a Kickstarter and then they would create a backer kit account to keep track of all the different rewards that they were supposed to be giving and who to give each one of those rewards to. And backer kit was exceptionally successful. There's quite a few Kickstarters that I backed years ago that were fulfilled through backer kit. And backer kit realized, well, we're doing the hard part, which is the fulfillment option. Running the actual Kickstarter or the crowdfunding aspect of it, that's actually not nearly as difficult to pull off as all the logistics behind the fulfillment aspects. And so they started quite a few years ago now. They started allowing you to do crowdfunding through the platform as well. There are pluses and minuses to both. Sorry. I just had a little Reese's thing, and they have little chunks of peanuts in them, and every so often there's just one chunk of peanut that gets stuck in a tooth or something, and then it annoys me. All right, so anyway, there are pluses and minuses to BackerKit versus Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a lot bigger, and so there is a chance that a lot more people might see your things because a lot more people go to Kickstarter than they do to BackerKit, and when they land on the landing page, it'll have different things. Or if they're just looking for TTRPGs, there is a much larger audience at Kickstarter. That's also a bit of a downside as well, though, because you have to compete with a much larger group of competitors in order to get eyes on your product and possibly get funded. BackerKit, on the other hand, is smaller. I don't know as much about BackerKit. I don't know if they offer more favorable terms in any way, shape, or form. I just have started seeing a lot more indie developers going with BackerKit, whereas a lot more kind of larger developers tend to go with Kickstarter. So read into that whatever you want to. They're both great services. So if you create a BackerKit account, you can go to the Twilight Sword launch party and follow it, which basically just puts you on an email list where they shoot you emails saying, by the way, we're about to launch. Or you actually get an email when they launch and go, hey, we launched. Do you wanna give us your money? You can also do a thing called reserving your spot, where you basically pay a single euro, I believe that is. You pay a single euro, and you don't actually have to reserve your spot. Like, there's not limited number of backing things that you can do on BackerKit. They don't have a limited number of slots of backers or something like that. What reserve your spot does just shows that you are financially invested in it. And if you do that, according to them, get a free exclusive household weapon cards. Get a free exclusive household weapon cards. The syntax in that is wrong, but I believe very much like Fabula Ultima, I believe this is an Italian-based company, so it's possible English is not their primary language, and so mixing up tenses and plural forms is really common in translation from Romantic languages back to from Romantic languages to English. Because in the Romantic languages, the way you create a plural for a word is you don't actually do anything to the noun. You actually change I can't remember the word. In French, le poisson is the fish. Les poissons is the fishes. And so it's if anyone can tell me what that the is, I can't remember what part of speech it is, but that's where they change it. And so every so often, confusing plural aspects of words happens when you translate from any of the Romance languages into English. All right, enough about language. So if you reserve your spot, which is basically you just put a buck down or a euro down, you can get a free exclusive household weapon cards by putting down a reservation deposit. Basically, it's just a way, and this goes into sales techniques, to be perfectly honest. The most difficult thing in making a sale is getting someone to actually commit to it. You can have a wonderful interaction with a customer. You can have a wonderful interaction with someone, and everything seems to be going well, and it looks like you're going to get the sale, and then at the very end they go, yeah, I'm not quite sure, and they go away. That's the most difficult part, is getting that initial action from the customer. So a lot of times, this is a common sales technique, you start by getting them to agree to do something small, and then you effectively upsell them into the larger product. Now, for everyone that's going, oh my God, that's so deceptive and salespeople are evil, it's not. I'm going to tell you this right now. I worked in sales for over a decade in various different positions. I did direct sales, I did sales management, and then I got a degree in marketing. The idea that salespeople in general are these evil, vindictive people that are just trying to trick you out of your money is completely false. It's not supported by any data whatsoever. It is entirely based on anecdotal evidence and Hollywood creating this idea of the, used car salesman, where they're just there to, sell you a lemon and get you off the lot as quick as possible. They've actually done studies. I can't remember who it was. It was years ago that they did this study, so I don't know if you can even find it anymore. But it might have been, no. Anyway, there was a study that I read that I can't find anymore, but where it basically tested kind of like the trustworthiness, how likely it was for someone to lie to you. And you want to know who the least likely people in a store were to lie to you? Salesmen. You want to know why? Because salesmen have to interact directly with the customer. And so if they lie and they get caught in the lie, they're the one that has to get screwed over. And salesmen in general have very little ability to cover up their lies. If they lie about something and then it comes back to them, they don't have any tools at their disposal to change things around to make it look like they didn't lie. You want to know the most dishonest people that you're going to deal with? Managers. And even saying that, the study that I read, it was something like less than 25% of managers. So 3 out of 4 managers are still completely honest. But that last, I think it's 23% or something like that. They're the most likely to be dishonest for 2 reasons. One, there's a separation between the customer and them. The customer is going to be dealing most of the time with the low-level employees, and they generally aren't dealing with the manager that much. And 2, managers have the ability to change things. They have the authority to make modifications, give away things for free to make it look like they didn't lie. So that additional power plus that additional separation means there's just less of a chance of a lie coming back and biting them in the ass. For salespeople in general, it doesn't happen. And it also is a really, really bad way to be a salesman. You will not be very, very successful unless you are 100% completely cutthroat, not only to customers, but also to your fellow sales staff. The only way you can live as a dishonest salesman is you have to screw over literally everybody. And surprisingly enough, that doesn't give you the ability to get a new job when you eventually do piss off the wrong person. So dishonest salesmen, very, very uncommon. So getting back to the idea of, well, what about that thing about where they try and get you to say, 9 times out of 10, my biggest problem when I was working in sales was getting people out of their own way to get the thing that they wanted or the thing that they needed. Printers were the things that I sold the most when I worked in a physical store, because I worked at an office supply store. Those were the most common things that we sold. And I cannot tell you how many people would come in and go, well, look, this printer, their cartridge is only $12, but the printer that you want me to buy, their cartridge is $20. You're trying to rip me off. No, ma'am, I'm not trying to rip you off. You told me that you do a lot of printing and that most of your printing is text without pictures. The cartridge that you're describing there, yes, a single cartridge is only $12, but in order to run the printer, you need 5 of them because it's a full color printer. Second of all, those cartridges only give you about 60 pages in a cartridge. So for $12, you're getting 60 pages. The cartridge that I wanted to give you, the cartridge for the printer that I wanted to sell you, will give you 200 pages in a $20 cartridge. And you don't need 5 of them to run. You need just 2. So which one is going to work better for you? Well, this printer's more expensive. Yes, because it gets you better ink cost. And that's what you're going to be buying over and over and over and over again. So you can pay less for the printer and end up paying a shit ton more money for the ink, or you can pay more for the printer and then save a shit ton of money on ink. And the printer's going to last you about 2-ish years. In that 2 years, how many cartridges of ink are you going to buy? Well, you've just covered the cost of the printer. Those are the things that I struggled with, and that's when I would use some of these techniques to get them to agree to something small and then slowly work them up to the thing that they actually wanted. And what did that do for me? Well, it built trust with the customer, because once they made that commitment, they would go home, they would use it, they would realize that they really, really liked it, and they were very happy with the purchase, and they would come back to me and go, hey, you were great the last time I worked with you. Now we want to get something bigger, and we want to work with someone that we trust. And that is the most important thing in sale, is your customers have to trust you. And if you are a dishonest salesperson, they will never trust you, and you will never do very well in the business. Again, unless you are so incredibly cutthroat that you literally screw over every single person you have ever worked with. So anyway, getting back to this, that's the reason why every so often you will see these things like reserve your spot. There's no need to make a reservation. However, by you giving them just a little bit of money, the likelihood of you actually backing raises significantly, because you already have made that first commitment to do something involving money. So that's why these things are there. Do I think that they're dishonest or anything? No, I think they're a really, really valuable tool, especially for small indie creators, to get people to go from on the fence to, yes, I'm definitely going to back this, which is, again, the hardest thing to do with something like this. So anyway, if you simply just follow it, you don't have to spend any money for this. I have not put down, I have not reserved a spot, though I may do that, because there's very little chance that I'm not going to back this, because I really, really love it. And I like getting free stuff, and a buck that will go towards your pledge later on really isn't that big a deal. So, anyway, if you follow, you can get a free preview. And when I saw free preview, I went, oh, I already have the free preview. I had the thing from Gen Con. This is not the same free preview. This is a significantly larger free preview that I want to talk about now. So, I looked through it, and I gotta say, this game looks so wonderfully adorable and so kind of cozy that I just adore it. The free preview itself, again, the other preview that they had from Gen Con, which I'll just pull up here so I can remember. The other preview from Gen Con was only, what was it? Only about like 15 pages. And it had lots of artwork that was very, very cool. And they gave like the briefest of brief overviews for how the game might work. But that was really it. It's a great little teaser, but it really didn't tell you much of anything. The new preview is over 30 pages, so we've doubled the amount of stuff in there, and it actually gives you concrete aspects of the game, so you know what you're getting into. It also is hyperlinked, so like I'm on the table of contents, and I can click on the game, and it takes me directly to page 6, where they start talking about the game. So, first things first, the cover art that they have is so great. They've got 4 characters. One of them blatantly looks like Erdrick from the Dragon Quest series. Like, has the little shield and the little tunic with the cape and everything like that. He has blue hair instead of, I think, Erdrick has, I think, brown hair. But he's very much inspired by that. And then behind him are 3 other characters that start showing off some of the races that are involved in this. One of them is a little cat person. The races, let's just talk about the races as long as we're talking about this. So, the races, which they call kin, there are 5 kin. There are the Huma, the most widespread kin in Radia. Radia is the world that you adventure in. Humans are considered the quintessential versatile king and can be recognized by their pointy ears. So, Huma, They're Hylians. That's what they are. They're Hylians. The Kedi, standing about half the height of a huma. Kedis are anthropomorphic cats from the desert, gifted with great agility and dexterity. It's the little cat people. The third group, Pengu. The tallest snow-capped peaks of Radia are home to Pengus, penguin people with extraordinary physical strength. They are effectively the Gorons, but they're penguins. So they're giant, muscly penguins. It's amazing. Strix. There are Strixum of all shapes and sizes, but all of them have round, dark heads, shiny eyes, and a natural talent for magic. So these are going to be kind of your standard magic race. You know, if you think Final Fantasy, like the New Mu in the Tactic Advance series, in the Evilus series, New Mu tend to be more magic focused. Or if you're looking at something like Final Fantasy XIV, the Taru are generally associated with magic, stuff like that. They're your magic race. And the final one, Toluna. The Toluna hail from the coast of Radia and boast striking muscles and innate physical prowess. The only ones that I have seen thus far in artwork have been Huma, because again, the two characters on the cover are the Erdrick looking one and then a Zelda looking one. Whom in the previous preview was a Zelda looking character. Like, she looked very, very similar to Zelda from Breath of the Wild, but she had a sword and she was looking super badass. This one looks a little bit closer to, again, Breath of the Wild Zelda, but instead of the like kind of blue tunic, you know, adventure version of Zelda, this one's in a white tunic and black pants, is holding a staff. So much more of the kind of magic version of Zelda. And then there's also a Pengu in the background with a big old club, and he looks amazing. And then there's a little, what are they called again? Kedi character that's got a cloak. He's got a little cloak. He's got a bow and arrow on his back, and he looks angry because he's a little angry kitten. The artwork is so incredibly gorgeous. You have this, again, very Breath of the Wild looking landscape. In the back of it, you can see a castle that is exuding this kind of purplish dark energy. I wonder what that's in reference to. Home. Now, me comparing all this stuff to Zelda is not a bad thing, to be blunt. First of all, Nintendo, because of the lawsuit they are currently going through with Pocket Pair, they're kind of on my shit list right now. Still love Nintendo products. I'm still going to be picking up Age of Calamity when it or Age of Imprisonment when it launches in a few days. I still, love all that stuff. However, I am not the biggest fan of Nintendo, and they tend to be extremely restrictive with their IP. Like, if Nintendo were to create a TTRPG for Zelda, I sincerely doubt it would look as polished as Twilight Sword does right now, even though Twilight Sword doesn't technically exist yet. Nor do I think it would be quite as good as what Twilight Sword is looking. Take, for example, what happened with the Final Fantasy XIV TTRPG, which is a travesty. It's a board game without a board. And I would not, theoretically, I could have run the Final Fantasy XIV TTRPG as my December campaign. Not doing it ever, because it's just not a fun system. It doesn't, to me, it just doesn't feel like a TTRPG in any way, shape, or form. So me saying that, yeah, this is Breath of the Wild, but not really. That's a good thing. I would love to. Again, I have run a 6.5 year long Breath of the Wild campaign that was amazing and wonderful. We used Open Legend for it. And now I am running what's been going on. I believe it's we've been playing for over 2 years now of a Tears of the Kingdom inspired campaign. Which we're using the Cypher system for, and I absolutely adore it. It has been so much fun. I love that world. There's a reason that I work with Zelda Universe, and that I've been I've been working with these guys for what, 9 years now, almost 10 years. That I've been hanging around with people over at Zelda Universe and getting to know all those people. I love The Legend of Zelda. I've been playing it since I was a little bubble. Um, and so the idea of being able to have a TTRPG that is specifically designed to kind of emulate that feeling, I think is a good thing. And I'm super, super thrilled with everything about this thus far. Now, the game itself, they do mention there are going to be uh, two books. There's going to be a core rule book, which is basically going to be your player's handbook. There's going to be Lands of Radia, which is going to be your combination kind of Dungeon Master's Guide slash bestiary. Their little schnidbit that they have here. The handbook features everything you need to create your champion, including 5 kin, 6 ways, and a rich list of feats and basic equipment. The core rulebook also includes the rules of the game and a short presentation of the Land of Radia. The Lands of Radia book, all the secrets champions are not allowed to know, are jealously guarded in this handbook. Here you will find tips and rules to manage the game and a complete guide to Radia, including many monsters, legendary weapons, and adventures. So, again, if you're just going to be playing the game, you really just need the core rulebook. If you're going to be running the game, you're probably going to need to pick up the Lands of Radia. Both of these books seem to not be your full kind of 8.5 by 11 or A4, since this is going to be European style books. They look to be kind of smaller, kind of half books, much closer to like Kiri's book there or Kiri's book here. I don't know what that size of book is called. If anyone actually knows what it's called, let me know. I used to. Working in office supplies, you also learned a lot about printing and sizing and all that other stuff. So I used to know what all this stuff is. Don't remember any of it anymore. So the books themselves look like they're going to be a little bit more compact than like your standard book, and I don't think that's really a bad thing. As far as how the game works, again, there's going to be 5 kin. There's going to be 6 ways, which are effectively your class. And the classes are, or the ways, Way of the Blade, Way of the Wild, Way of Light, Way of Magic, Way of Shadows, and Way of the Song. And those are effectively, Way of the Blade, it's your fighter class. Way of the Wild is ranger class. Specifically, like if you're wondering, well, is that more of a druid? This is what they say for Way of the Wild. Those who pick the Way of the Wild are at home in the wilderness, ready to brave even the most dangerous trails. These champions favor the bow and stay one step ahead of their enemy. So, again, very much ranger-style class. Way of Light is your clerics. Way of Magic is your wizards. Way of Shadows, rogues. Way of the Song, bards. So, I do love the fact that the standard classes as you have in most tabletop RPGs, you will always have a fighter, you will always have a magic user of some sort, and you will always have a healer of some sort. Those are the classic trilogy, the Holy Trinity, whatever you want to call them. When you start expanding on that, the first one they generally add will be a rogue because it's so popular. And then it's kind of up to the designers. Once you have those 4 common classes, everything else is more of a preference. Do you want to start bringing in more holy style characters? Paladins were something in original D&D that were very, very popular. Monks were as well, though. They were significantly less popular because they were extremely hard. You had to roll really, really high to be able to build a monk, and you had to take a bunch of levels and other stuff. So you can go that route. Rangers are exceptionally popular, not only from Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, but Drizzt is the most popular Forgotten Realms character ever, possibly the most popular Dungeons and Dragons based character ever. So those are relatively common. Bard, however, bards didn't really show up in D&D until around second edition. They weren't really a subclass of rogues, but in second edition D&D, there were 4 kind of categories of characters. You had warriors, mages, priests, and I think rogues was the last one. is what it's called. It was rogues or something like that. And then in those categories, you had different things. Like for mages, you had all of the different specialist wizards, transmuters, evocators, necromancers. All of them were their own separate class underneath mage. For warriors, you had your fighters. I think paladins showed up over there. Basically, all of your weapon-based class. And under rogues, you had thief, which is kind of your standard rogue, but then you had other things as well, like assassins eventually made it into there, shadow dancer, and bard was technically listed under rogue because second edition bards, in addition to being able to cast spells, they also had a bunch of rogue talents. Specifically, they could pick locks, detect traps, and disarm traps, just not quite as good as a thief or something along those lines. So the fact that they added bard without adding in something like a paladin or anything like that, I find kind of interesting. And I'm not. It's very, very possible that part of the Way of the Blade will allow you to create a paladin style character, and that Way of the Blade is just an overarching thing that allows you to combine a bunch of basically anything that's based on weapons will be Way of the Blade, whether you mix in magic or not. Excuse me. And Way of the Wild is just meant to be more the range based. Like Way of the Blade is your melee, Way of the Wild is your ranged based, and then light and magic are going to be your healing spells versus combat spells. And then Way of the Shadow is just your standard rogue. And then Way of the Song is meant to be more of a support style class. And they decided that songs fit the thing best. I don't know. I haven't seen anything other than this preview, but I do find it interesting that bards are the 6th class. So yeah. The way that you do anything in this compared to your standard TTRPG where everything is done with a D20, this actually uses a D12. And for those of you that roll like me, when you roll a D12, 1 is the best result you can get, and 12 is the worst. This is another one where it looks like you're going to be attempting to roll under a score as opposed to over a score, which means everything is technically backwards. If anyone's like, oh man, this could be too, it really isn't. It still works exactly the same way where you roll your number and then you add things to it. However, you just are trying to meet or be below the target number instead of being above it. So it's not that big a deal. And then they have an advantage-disadvantage system, exactly the same as like the D20 5e, advantage, disadvantage. You roll 2d12, choose the lower, disadvantage 2d12, choose the higher. And then their resources, and this is another thing that I find interesting. You have hearts and stamina. Hearts represent their health. A champion can suffer damage equal to a number of their hearts before being defeated. So hit point system is probably going to be kind of similar to like the Essence 20 system or Dagger Heart, where your hearts are going to be single digits for a large portion of the game. And you probably won't get too far into the double digits. Like I just made a Daggerheart character that was level 10 and increased their hit points every chance I could. And they got to 13 hit points. So I'm thinking this is probably going to be similar in that idea of you're not going to have a ton of hit points. And that probably means that either healing in and of itself is going to be very, very valuable, because even healing 2 or 3 hit points is probably going to change things drastically when you only have like 5 or 6 at any given time. And it also means that combat is probably going to be relatively short. Because in D&D 5th edition, when you get to high levels and you have over 200 hit points, combat can go on for 6 or 7 rounds. Average combat, for anyone who doesn't know, average combat in D&D is somewhere between about 3 to 6 rounds. And if it gets to 6 rounds, it's a really long combat. But you get into the high-end end game like boss battle stuff, you can easily go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rounds. Because things are very, very complicated and there's lots of stuff going on and enemies have lots of hit points and the players have lots of hit points. However, if you only have, 4 or 5 hit points starting off, your combat is probably going to be relatively short because every round that goes past is going to be getting rid of more of those hit points. And, if you only have a limited amount, you can't have combat going on for 7 rounds or something like that. So that's something I find interesting. The other thing they have is stamina. A champion's stamina is their most precious resource. Stamina can be used to activate feats, cast spells, and push a failed roll. So there are no magic points. I'm guessing there's probably not going to be limited use abilities or things like that. It's all going to be based on this single unifying limited resource, stamina, which I really, really like. I do not know if there's going to be kind of a multi-class aspect to this in any way, shape, or form, or if certain feats will give you access to things like magic when you're not a magic user. I haven't seen any of that. But if there is, the fact that everybody uses the same limited resource opens up the ability to create interesting builds because now you don't have to track multiple limited resources. Take something relatively simple like the Eldritch Knight Fighter. An Eldritch Knight fighter is going to have their fighter abilities, which are generally going to be a number of uses on a short or long rest. Take something like Action Surge or Second Wind. These are both things that you have to track independently, and it's, I have 1 Action Surge per long rest, short rest, I can't remember, and then, 1... Second Wind per short rest. So those you have to track separately. And then you also have your spell slots that have their own completely different system that they use, a completely different limited resource that you have to track. And that's organized by spell levels. So while the Eldritch Knight is not a particularly complicated class to run compared to something like a Druid that gets very, very complicated once you start dealing with wild shaping and stuff like that, it's still going to be more complicated than, say, just running a standard champion fighter or something like that. With a stamina system, that complication gets thrown out the window. Everything is going to be about, okay, how much stamina do I have to be able to put it into these various things. That also introduces an even better example of opportunity cost. If you're not familiar with the term, opportunity cost is actually an economic term. And it basically is the idea of gauging whether you should do something, not by how much it actually costs you in dollar amount, but how much it prevents you from doing something else. The example that was given in my textbook back when I was in college was the idea of you have a little kind of restaurant in a mall or something like that. This kind of dates me as far as when I took this course, or at least when the book was written. This place, they serve pizzas and sandwiches. All right. A pizza is larger, takes more time to make, whereas a sandwich is smaller and is easier to make. It's quicker to make. So in the time it takes to make 1 pizza, you can make 3 sandwiches, to use easy numbers. So anytime you are doing prep work or something like that, you kind of have to ask yourself, is this pizza worth 3 sandwiches? Because if it's not, then I'm not going to make the pizza, I'm going to make the sandwiches. And that's what opportunity cost is. It's basically going, this thing, if I commit to it, is going to prevent me from doing this other thing. So instead of thinking about it as, well, this is 20 minutes of my time, you think about it as, well, I could make 1 of these or 2 of these. And that's how opportunity cost works. In tabletop RPGs, you have opportunity cost anytime you're thinking about using your action. Because it's like, well, I could make an attack or I could cast a spell. Both of them are going to use the same action. Which one is going to give me the best bang for my buck? That's opportunity cost. And so with a single unified resource, you now get to gauge opportunity cost of, well, I could cast this one spell, or I could make these 2 special attacks. Which of those are going to be more beneficial for me? Or I could cast this offensive spell that will stop me from casting this defensive or recovery spell. And so having a single unified resource is actually really useful in the idea of adding weight to all of the abilities in a Giga game. Because again, you never really have to choose between doing a second wind and an action surge, because they use 2 different things. An action surge is just a free thing that gives you an additional action, whereas second wind is a bonus action. I think so. Before I say that for certain, I want to make sure that action surge isn't actually a bonus action, because my brain is telling me it might be, and I don't know why. Player's Handbook. And I'm going to go to the 2020 or 2014 version of it, just because that's the one that I'm most familiar with. Class features. Fighting style. Second wind. So yeah, second wind's a bonus action. Yeah. And then action surge is just, you get to take an additional action. So there's no opportunity cost involved with choosing between action surge and second wind in D&D 5th edition. They're 2 completely separate things. The same thing is true about like second wind versus casting one of your spells as an Eldritch Knight. Again, second wind is a bonus action. Your spells are going to be actions, and they don't, like, using a spell doesn't prevent you from later using a second wind. They're tracked completely differently. With one unifying limited resource for everything, all of that stuff now becomes comparable, now has to be involved in the opportunity cost discussion. And it means that balance between abilities starts becoming a little bit more important. It also means that anything that counts as a quote-unquote free ability, if those exist in this game, becomes incredibly valuable, because it's not taking up some of your limited stamina. It also means that anything that has the ability to restore stamina becomes that much more valuable. If there are spells that allow you to transfer stamina from one character to another, or just restore stamina to other characters, which would effectively be a transfer from you to other characters, but I digress. Those are going to have benefits and drawbacks and things like that. So getting back to this Giga game, I really like the fact that both your kind of martial abilities, if they have any of them, are going to use the stamina system, but also your spells are going to be using it. And this push a failed roll. They don't actually explain that in here anywhere, but push a failed roll, I mean, seems pretty self-explanatory. You didn't make it, so I'm going to use a little bit of my stamina to bump up the roll by a certain amount, or maybe bump it down by a certain amount, since it looks like this is a roll under system. So yeah, really cool thing. The abilities that you have in here, your ability scores, are going to be strength, agility, will, dexterity, perception, knowledge, charisma, and stealth. I do find it kind of interesting that stealth is its own core ability score and not like a skill created later on, which when we talk about the kind of core mechanics of the game, it'll probably make a little bit more sense why they have an entire category just for stealth, as opposed to it being a subset of either dexterity or agility. And they do have, like, agility, run, jump, fight with light weapons, versus dexterity, play music, pick locks, throw knives. So, yeah, they have 2 different things that are generally considered part of stealth, and yet they still have stealth as its own category. So I do think that that's relatively interesting. They also have an element system where each one has a thing that they're strong against and a thing that they're weak against. So fire beats ice, ice beats wind, wind beats earth, earth beats thunder, thunder beats water, water beats fire, darkness beats light, and light beats darkness, which that in and of itself I find really, really fascinating. Meaning, if you're using if you are a darkness-based character and you are fighting a light-based character, You are both strong and weak against that character. I love that kind of dichotomy. I think it's really, really cool. There's also an element called Twilight, which is supposedly super, super rare. We won't go into that right now. They talk about equipments. They have a cooking system. Checks, if you're watching this, you can cook. And if anyone doesn't know what I'm referring to, one of my players in my Zelda game and one of my Wednesday night games, her name is Chax. She's wonderful and amazing. However, Chax is the only person I have ever seen play Breath of the Wild and not just completely use up all of their cooking slots. They always had them completely full. And if anyone in here is talking about, wait a minute, you have a limited number of cooking slots in Breath of the Wild. Yeah, that's because people normally don't fill them up, but Chax did, and so the fact that there's cooking in this is going to make her very, very happy. Yeah, that's a thing that I think is cool. And then we get into how the game is played. Effectively, the way that you play Twilight Sword is you adventure around the realm of Radia. Effectively, what's happened is Radia, very much like Breath of the Wild, had a thing happen where the bad guys won, and they're kind of ruling over the land. And the way that you play is you wander around, going into areas of what are called despair. I'll just read directly from the book. Since the return of the Scourge of Ardus, the regions of Radia have been plagued by despair. Regions that suffer from greater despair can carry higher chances of stumbling into monsters or being caught in inclement weather. By doing good deeds and gathering hope, the champions can lower the level of despair in certain places until it is gone completely. So what's hope? Champions gather hope when, 1, they help someone by carrying out a task or going on a small adventure. 2, they explore a landmark and uncover its secrets, freeing it from Varda's influence. Or 3, they defeat the boss infesting a region. When the champions gain hope, they can mark it on their sheet and use it to advance and gain new feats. Additionally, every time hope is gained within the borders of a region, the narrator can lower the level of despair for that region. Once there's no more despair in a region, its inhabitants will organize a big party to celebrate the champions and offer them rewards. So, the main mechanic and the main kind of cycle that you go through in Twilight Sword is you explore the world looking for landmarks and things like that in areas of despair. While you're exploring, you will find people that need help in these areas of despair, and every time you help them, you gain hope, which is effectively your experience points. This is what you use to increase the power of your character. But at the same time, every time you earn hope in an area, it starts lowering the despair level. So eventually you will fix an area. You will have this particular area completely free of despair. And because the only way to get hope is by adventuring in areas of despair, it will eventually force you to go somewhere else because you're done here. You've completed everything you can. Let's go to the next area. From a purely mechanical standpoint, this is a brilliant idea. Because what it does is it effectively forces the characters to explore without making it feel like you're punishing them. The reason that they can't explore in this area anymore is because they won and they've been rewarded for it. It's not because, oh, you hit your daily limit of quests in this area, you must go to a different... Nope, it's because you fixed it. You did super, super well and you cured the land of its despair. Congratulations. Now you can move somewhere else. I love that as a mechanic. I think it's fantastic. Because again, what was it? I was watching a video on YouTube's like you do. And it was talking about the design of World of Warcraft. And one of the things that was really, really big when World of Warcraft launched was EverQuest was the biggest MMO in the world at the time. It was massive, but EverQuest had gotten a lot of really negative press recently, within the past few years before World of Warcraft was launched. And the reason why is there had been a lot of stories of kids that had gotten so addicted to kind of the grind and everything of EverQuest that they had serious health concerns. And they displayed addiction-like behavior, like actual chemical addiction style behavior where when they were removed from it too long, they would actually start going through withdrawal. By the way, this is a real thing. You don't actually have to ingest a chemical or something like that that gives you a chemical dependency in order to form an addiction that causes withdrawal. Sex addiction is a really good example where all of the chemicals and stuff that are released during the act, whether that act is with a real person or while you're watching something, your body can become dependent on those higher levels of those chemicals. And if you stop giving it that same level of those chemicals, you can actually go through real withdrawal symptoms. And so the dopamine effect of EverQuest, where you are constantly being rewarded by level ups and getting new gear and stuff like that, it caused these very high levels of dopamine when you're doing it that would get much lower when you weren't, and it created an addiction. And so when they were designing World of Warcraft, they wanted a system that would basically require people to stop playing, to go out and touch grass. Which is really interesting because now World of Warcraft is built around the idea of, no, we want you here, 23 hours a day. But when it was first designed, it was designed with this feature that would force you to stop playing. And the first thing that they play tested for it was basically a daily XP limit, where after you did so many things that gained you XP, it would start giving you a penalty to your XP, to where eventually it would get very, very low, and it would be very, very difficult to level up until you got off and allowed that negative penalty to go away. People hated it. It was the worst thing ever. However, they changed it. Instead of it being a penalty for every quest that you did, what they did is they added what was called rested experience. If you logged out in an inn or some other safe place, while you were off, you would start gaining a rested experience bar, which would give you a bonus amount of experience until you used up that bar. From a purely mechanical standpoint, it worked the exact same way as the XP limit did. You could do the exact same number of quests and get the exact same amount of experience through the rested XP system as you could with the XP punishment system. It was the exact same numbers, but by framing it as, well, we're rewarding you for getting off the game and leaving your character in a safe place versus we are punishing you for playing too much. People loved it. It was significantly more well received. It is still something that exists in World of Warcraft to this day. Again, going back to Twilight Sword, this idea of we're not punishing you for questing in the same place. We're rewarding you for basically finishing this area and then moving on to the next one, I think is really, really cool and interesting and a great way to encourage exploration. Also, they specifically reward exploration. One of the ways you gain experience is they explore a landmark. So the three things that let your character advance are helping people, doing quests, interacting with NPCs, exploring a landmark, physically going to places, and then the third is defeating the boss, and that's doing the overarching story of that particular region, which might link to the rest of the regions in the game. Everything about this is wonderful and amazing and great. I love everything about it. There's also the fact that as the player's adventure, there's nothing stopping despair from coming back to previous regions for whatever reason. I would say if you're running this game and you do have a place that was previously finished with hope and you add despair back to it again, there needs to be a really, really good reason why, because otherwise it will completely cheapen the value of them, quote unquote, completing a region. If it can just go back to despair whenever you want, that's going to work against the game system. But if something happens that's big enough, like maybe they go up against a boss and they fail, one of the loss conditions could be that boss is able to reestablish despair in this region. As opposed to the loss condition just being, oh, your characters are dead. Well, no, allow them to live, get captured, get banished or something, whatever it is. But the loss condition is one of the areas that they were so proud of that they fixed, well, now has been turned back to despair. And either they can go back and recomplete that area, or they can take out this big boss and use that as a method of preventing the spread of despair, things like that. Like, there's a lot of potential in this idea of a game. So, yeah. And then the rest of it is talking about the different monsters and stuff. And again, the monsters are, I don't want to say this because I don't want to get Nintendo any ideas, but one of the monsters is a small little skeleton with horns that looks remarkably like a bokoblin. Or what are the skeleton bokoblos? Astolphos, but bokoblin style. And then they have little lizard people or lizard warrior things with spears. And then the boss that they show on the end, well, it's a centaur-like creature with a big old beard and horns that's carrying this massive axe. I don't know what that could be. Like, it definitely, most definitely does not look like a Linnell in any way, shape, or form. It's a Linnell. So those are things that are cool. And they have cards for all of this stuff, which, again, I'm a big fan of cards. One of the other things that I thought was really, really interesting is you could get an item called a card chest when you buy the game. And the card chest is full of a bunch of different cards. Some of them are weapon cards and item cards. Some of the other things they have are map cards. It is the entire map of Radia, but it's separated into cards. And so instead of just having a world map and allowing the players to kind of explore wherever they are, what you can do is you can lay out the map cards and then flip all of them over except for like one or two. And those are the areas that your players have explored. And as they explore each different area, you flip the map card over, which I love as a way to create a world map. To literally have them not knowing what's in the rest of the map. Now, the one limitation, as far as I can see on this, is the map cards are literally the map of Radia, which is a set thing. You know, the map doesn't change. And so because of that, the cards have to be put in the same place every time. What I would like to see is kind of a roguelike element where the cards themselves are designed in a way that you can kind of mix and match their edges to basically create a new map every time you explore. Now, I don't think that's something that's going to be built into the game itself. As far as I can tell, the map cards are going to be designed to just be a different way to use the map. However, that doesn't mean as the game expands, there isn't a chance that could happen, or that somebody could just develop that system and could use it for any game that you want. I mean, the D&D adventure board game system, that's exactly how it works. You have all these different map cards that are actually puzzle pieces. They have little cutouts so that you can fit them together. And the way that you play the game is you get a random number of these map cards, and then there will be a special map card that you have to put in a set number of cards down. And so as you explore, you don't know what each room is going to be, what kind of dangers are going to be in there. But there is certain cards that have to be in there for the specific scenario that you're playing. Yeah, so I definitely think someone could jury rig a system like that. Or if Twilight Sword does really well, maybe they will make a quote-unquote roguelike expansion or whatever they want to call it, where they just have randomized map cards. That's not to say that you can't take the map cards and just randomly spread them out. But there's certain things like the center castle area on the map not only is going to have the castle, but it also has these little towers and other things around it, to where it would kind of be weird to mix and match those things. Like there's certain things that looks like they're going to be, parts of multiple cards. So I think it probably won't be the easiest thing in the world to mix and match. But that's not to say that if you suspend your disbelief a little bit, you couldn't do something like that. And then have basically a brand new adventure every single time you play the game. Which I love and I think is amazing and wonderful. So yeah, that is everything that's in the preview. I wasn't initially planning on making an hour-long video about this, but I cannot tell you how excited I am about this game. It looks amazingly cool. There are so many aspects of the game that I am vibing with. Officially, their little tagline. By the way, the game company that's making it is called Two Little Mice. And their tagline for it is, "Become a champion and bring back hope to the lands of Radia. Twilight Sword is an adventure role-playing game inspired by classic video games like The Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, Ni no Kuni." They don't have an "and" in there, but so yeah, it's everything that I want. I grew up playing Final Fantasy games. I grew up playing The Legend of Zelda. I had the original gold cart of Legend of Zelda, and I think we might have had a gold cart of The Adventures of Link as well. We had both games. I significantly preferred the original Legend of Zelda over Zelda 2 because I never beat the first palace in Zelda 2 until I was an adult. It is a hard game. But yeah, I've played A Link to the Past so many times I can almost run the game blindfolded. I've gotten close to attempting speedruns on it. I had my buddy actually teach me how to speedrun it. And I think my first speed run, despite the fact that I broke one of the rules of that particular speed run, which is you're apparently not allowed to save and quit to teleport around the map, because I do randomizer runs, and that's a key technique in randomizer runs. Is once you get to a certain point where you're like, okay, I'm done with this area. If the next area you need to be is significantly closer to a starting point, whether it's Link's house, the Sanctuary, or Death Mountain, you just save and quit to basically teleport yourself there as opposed to having to walk. But yeah, my first run came in at 3.5 hours or something like that, which is an abysmal run for a speedrunner. I think right now speedrunning records without using glitches to just glitch in the final boss are under an hour, I want to say. I might be wrong about that, but I think it's either just over an hour. Well, here, I can look it up. Link to the past speed. Now, what's the world record right now? Oh, I was wrong. The world record, according to speedrun.com, is 1 hour and 26 minutes. According to AI, it's 1 hour and 22 minutes, so I don't know which one of those is true. Yeah, so a 3.5 hour speed run is pretty bad. You can play the game normally and beat it in about like your first time playing through it, you can beat the game in anywhere between 4 to 8 hours, depending on how crazy you want to get with finding everything in the game, with no difficulty whatsoever. Anyway, so like again, I love Legend of Zelda. I love Final Fantasy. Ni no Kuni, I have played multiple times, and every single time I start getting into the game, something will come out and will distract me from finishing it. But I really do like Ni no Kuni. I think it is a wonderful, amazing game. And so all of those things are just lovely and wonderful, and a game built around the idea of overcoming despair with hope is wonderful. Like everything about this game feels like it was made for me. So interested from here to hear from you guys. Any of you guys, first of all, any of you interested in Twilight Sword, or is this the first time you've heard about it? Second of all, what are you guys thinking about as far as the system? Do you like the stamina system? Do you not like it? Do you like that idea of a world map that actually gets revealed as you explore it? Let me know all that in the comments down below. I will have a link to the backer kit page right underneath the link to purchase The Hearth Witch's Guide to Magic and Murder, book 1 of the Hemlock Saga, written by USA Today bestselling author Kiri. Links in the description down below, that I get nothing from, except the joy of helping my friend sell her amazing book. So yeah, check it out, follow it, look at the preview, let me know what you guys think. Otherwise, it's all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.